So there's something that's changed in 4th edition, and it's something that I've been kind of paying attention to and not like kind of thinking about and experimenting with, and that is that some abilities have changed. And I'm not sure if this is army-wide or like if it's game-wide, but it certainly is true of Auric War Clans. And that is that some abilities are no longer like until the beginning of your next turn. They are instead just for the turn. So before I give you some examples, I'd like to thank my patrons, Baron of Dice for supporting the channel, and who else? Wyperion. So if you're looking to support the channel, Patreon's the best way to do it. Okay, so let's look at some examples here. Okay, so here's an excellent example. So here's a Mega Boss on foot. So this ability that he has, Get Stuck In Lads. It, on a 2-up, add 1 to the attack characteristic until the start of your next turn. So this lasts for my turn and for my opponent's turn as well. But over here, this Mega Boss ability, Lead to Brutes, roll a 3 and for the rest of the turn. So what this means is that on my turn, I can have +2 attacks, but on my opponent's turn, I can only have +1 attacks. So if we're looking at other things as well in this book, I want to see, let's see. I want to see the Cruel Boy spells. Mork's Cunning gives +1 to save until the start of your next turn, but the Swamp Call Shaman +1 to save only says until the end of the turn. And you can only use it, from what I remember, I'm probably right, but let's just double check anyway. The Swamp Call Shaman, it says, once per turn, your hero phase. So it means that on my opponent's turn, I can have +1 to save, but on my turn, I can have +2 to save. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. Choking Mist until the start of your next turn. So, fantastic. Right? And then what was the other one I wanted to see as well? It's in Iron Jaws. So, Get 'em Beat until the start of your next turn. Right? So this is good for countercharging. Kill a Beat is only for the rest of the turn. So if you give your units +1 damage, it's only for the rest of your turn. This makes chanting in your opponent's phase super relevant. If you're playing like an Ardboy heavy list, which is what I've been experimenting with lately, on your turn, you're just chanting and building up points, and then on your opponent's turn, you're chanting and trying to give +1 damage to 2 different units to absorb the charge. That's kind of how you're playing it. If you're playing a Brutes list, I think that you probably want to buff the Brutes on your turn. But it matters. It changes how we see abilities, it changes how abilities are used, and it changes the value of different things, right? So yeah, bash 'em lads. And that's why I've been sort of reconsidering a little bit Zogrok Anvil Smasher, because Zogrok's ability lasts until the beginning of your next turn, and it's really consistent. You need to get a 3-up if you're built for the tongs, which I'm sure most of us will be, and you get to re-roll it, and then it lasts until the start of your next turn. So if you're playing like a Mega Boss on foot and Zogrok Anvil Smasher, you can have +1 attacks with crit mortals on your opponent's turn. But if you're playing a War Chanter, you have to pick, do I want the damage on my turn, or do I want it on my opponent's turn? It changes kind of the feel. Tongs are a trap. Tell me more. Why do you think tongs are a trap? I'm not convinced that Zogrok is like super good or anything, but if I'm playing like 2 reinforced units of Ardboys, I think that there's maybe like something to be said about that, especially if you're also playing a War Chanter, right? You can give them +1 damage, and now their mortals are critting for 2. But I don't think that the Ward Smasher Choppa is with only 2 attacks. It's too swingy for my taste. It's re-rollable, and the sword is on a hit, not damage. Yeah, but you have to actually hit, and so immediately with a 4-up, you're not like, if you're pumping all out attack into this to get it better, like it's really tough to find all out attacks or +1 to hits in this army, and so immediately it's like, well, I have 1 die, I have to roll it once and not get a 1, and then it does have 2 rend. So, like, I don't know, we'll see. He's also super slow at only 4, right? I know we have whatever, but I'm sort of unconvinced that he's playable, like, at all. 2 3-ups to stop wards, and you can split them. Yeah, well, no, you can't. You can't split them. You can't split a profile. You can split different profiles, but you can't split these two attacks. They have to pick one target. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. But just so you guys know, right? That if you are playing this game, you should make sure that you read your abilities really closely to see which ones are till the beginning of your next turn and until the end of your turn. Because I think in third, most everything was until the beginning of your next hero phase. And I think we got used to that, right? Oh. No, Venom Encrusted Weapons is on both. Until the start of your next turn. Oh, why did I always think it was just on your turn? Until the start of your next turn. Yeah, Cruel Boys want to go first. I think Cruel Boys want to go first. Like, subscribe, wah.